Storm didn't have anything to do with it. And you say, you gotta tell.
To Florida in 1934. We drove the old, I have it right up here about that. Would you like to see that?
No,
Or,
no, she can't see that over there.
I mean, I could read it.
Then tell us about it.
Okay. We worked at a big summer resort in northern Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota, by the way. And I worked there for 8 summers. And my sister and I were both working at Lutzen. And Mr. Nelson, who owned the place, they came from Sweden and homesteaded 90 miles north of Duluth up in the woods. And we went up and we worked at this resort. So then one year they asked us to, they had been coming to Florida occasionally, and they'd go to Fort Myers Beach and rent a cottage there. They asked my sister and I to come down and see them. So we got in, we bought this old Model A Ford in 1929, wasn't it?
Right,
And
had a rumble seat in it.
had a rumble seat. And it was blue, a robin eggs blue, a robin's egg blue. And it took us 9 days to come down, which wasn't too bad for the roads we had at that time. And there were snowbanks higher than the car when we went through Wisconsin, and icy. But we kept going and we got here, well, 9 days later. And the Nelsons were living in Sanibel at that time. So that's where we landed. And that's where I met George. Or Winfred, I guess they call him here. His name is George Winfred. And most of the people that we know now call him George. But over here he's Winfred.
Always been Winfred on the
Oh, on the island you had
Sure.
yours. But everybody in our park is
You wanna
George.
read that to them, how you?
Well, I don't know if
met
they
me?
want this whole thing read. Do you think you'd want it all read?
You wanna know how she met me?
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
On January 16th, 1934, Hilda Jensen and her sister Mabel left their parents' home in Belgrade, Minnesota, for Florida. A blizzard was brewing and it was cold, probably below 0. Together they purchased a 1929 Model A Ford with a rumble seat. It needed a paint job, so they painted it robin's egg blue and called it their Blue Goose. That was a good car. They had spent several summers doing waitress work at a big, beautiful summer resort on the north shore of Lake Superior. Lutzen is the name of the resort, 90 miles north of Duluth. And it is still operating, modernized, of course, still in the Nelson family. But I understand that now it has been sold to someone else. It was quite primitive in the early 30s. They worked for a Mr. and Mrs. C.A.A. Nelson, who migrated from Sweden and homesteaded the land. Mr. and Mrs. Nelson invited Hilda and Mabel to come to Florida to visit them that winter. They had wintered on Sanibel Island in one of the Mayer cottages the winter before. The Jensen sisters were gypsies at heart. Hilda still loves to travel, and that invitation was all it took. And they laid their plans and started out. And the good Lord was surely looking over them. The roads were a sheet of ice, and going through Wisconsin, the
Were
snow.
you nervous or?
I'm a little nervous now.
Kinda
I don't
sound
know
that
why,
way.
I don't know why.
Why should you be?
Let's see. The snowbanks on either side were higher than the car, but they kept going. 9 days later, they caught the ferry at Ponderosa and saw Sanibel Island for the first time. The only car trouble traveling the nearly 2,000 miles on a 2-lane rough road, not super highways, was one flat tire. Going to the island store one day, he only caught sight of a slender, tall, black-haired, good-looking guy stealing glasses. And one evening soon after that, at the Island Beach party, she was introduced to Win Wiles. You know him as George W. Wiles. Well, here he's known as Winfield Wiles. He was known by that name to all his family and friends in those days. Win and his parents had come to Sanibel by train back in 1924 or 25 when he was 12 or 13 years old. He knows that it was one or the other because he was here for the hurricane in 1926. His family had sold their farm in Georgia to join his uncle who was already farming on Sanibel. What was his name?
Frank Paget.
Frank Paget was his name. They raised a lot of peppers and tomatoes on Sanibel in those days. Anyway, once he caught a glance of Hilda and met her at the beach party, that was it. And they were married about 2 years later, on October 27th, 1936, to be exact, in Belgrade, Minnesota. They have 2 children, Wayne, who owns and operates Wayne Wiles Carpet on Alica Road. He has 3 sons, Stephen, John, and Mark. Their daughter Diane, who is married to Roy Henry, he is one of the old Henry family in Fort Myers. Their daughter's name is Carrie. And that's what's down.
Thank you, that was very
All right.
nice.
Mr. Wiles, tell
No.
us about your trip when you first saw Sanibel and what it looked like to you as a
Okay.
12-year-old.
We got on the train in Orchard Hill, Georgia, and we come by train to Fort Myers. And then we, of course, we was met there, and we got on the Gladys or the Dixie, of which one was running. They had 2 of them. I don't know which one it was now. And we came all the way down to the river, past Ponderosa, and then to Mr. Bailey's store, what they call the Matthews Wharf then. So that's the way we got to Sanibel. And my sister and 3 brothers was already over here. See, they had came down early before we did, and we finally sold the farm, and then we came to join them. And when we got off, they had it all fixed up for us to stay in the little green house where the station is now on the corner. So that's where we lived. We lived in that till after the 26th hurricane. And of course, mother passed away a little after the 26th hurricane. And my dad and I, we lived there in the little green house. Then I worked for Mr. Bailey. Of course, I went to school, but when I wasn't in school, I was helping Mr. Bailey, because he had that big store out on the water there where you could drive out, turn around, come back off with your cars. Of course, it was all Model Ts or trucks or something. And in the meantime, Mr. Bailey had 2 guys working, Haskell Daniels and a fellow named Shine. And they stayed upstairs. See, the store was big enough, so they had a little upstairs to it, you know. So they had their rooms to sleep there. And after the storm took the whole store down, of course, and then we only had the warehouses and stuff out on the dock. And of course, we had a lot of cases of peas and beans and stuff like that, so we had to carry in the lull of the storm after the store had gone. Haskell Daniels come by the house, and I went along with him down, and he and I and his wife, we carried stuff out of the warehouses and put it in what is Charlotta Matthews had at the shore there, had a little tea room, what they call a tea room, and that was right on the shore there. So we put a lot of the stuff into her little building, because it was still there after but then, see, that's when the eye was on. So it didn't take it long, but we had to work pretty fast. So the storm was coming from the south pretty fast before we got back up to where I lived. In the meantime, Haskell Daniels, he tried to go down to the lighthouse to send a telegram to Mr. Bailey, but then he didn't get there. He lost his automobile right before he got to the lighthouse. See, the lighthouse had the Western Union, so he could send a telegram to Mr. Bailey that we had lost the store. So and then after that, Mr. Bailey came down, of course, and he was up there on a vacation because I think his kids, Francis and John and Sam, they went to school up there in North Carolina. So that's where he was in the 1926 hurricane came. Shall I slow up a little bit?
No,
Yeah,
you're
keep
doing
going.
just fine.
Keep going.
Your house didn't go with the storm, apparently.
No, I
You
didn't.
didn't lose it.
No, and it was another little greenhouse right alongside of ours where a fellow named Seacrest lived in. But it went off of the foundation. See, the houses was sitting on little pillars, you know, and boats went through the pillars to hold it, you know, so but it slid off the foundation. That one did, but ours didn't, see. But in the meantime, we had gone up to Mr. Rutland's, Clarence Rutland's house, to stay up there for the worst of the storm coming in. But in the morning, about 5:30, the storm was all over with, and all the salt water from the Gulf had went back out. It wasn't in there. All it was down, was pine trees and stuff like that, so we couldn't drive up and down the road, but you could walk, you know. Of course, we didn't have any electricity or anything, so it didn't matter about lines laying down for us to get chopped, you know, as we walked. But that's
We
it.
didn't have electricity till after we lived over here
Yeah.
for several years.
Oh, it took a long
I don't
time.
know
And
what
we
to do
had
with it.
thousands of mosquitoes, I can say
Oh,
that.
murder.
Yeah, and
Terrible.
of course, and then I went to going to school, you know, the Shanahans.
Which school building did you go to?
The one that's now is a theater. That's where the little schoolhouse was. And I don't know what it looked. I don't think it looked like that, like the theater does. I think it looks more like the picture here. All that, see. And there was quite a few of us. I remember the Underhills, Muggins Underhills, two sisters. They was going to school there. And Ramsa's son, Sammy, he was going to school. And a boy named Fitzhugh, of course, they lived here on the island, and he was one of our students too there.
Who was the teacher?
Can't remember that. We were so mean that we had different teachers all the time.
One couldn't take it like
No, they didn't take it. It was nice. And this, Mr. Shanahan, he was a mail carrier at that time, you know.
Well, yeah.
Webb Shanahan. And the post office was way down the bayside. That's where the boat would
Mr.
bring the
Goddard.
mail, the steamboat coming in, the Gladys or the Dixie would bring the mail in the bags. And Mrs. Goddard, Mr. Reed's daughter, was married to Goddard at that time. And the post office was way down on the bay, so she'd have to take the car and go across the bridges, the little bridges along where the water run out from inside into the Gulf. We had, I think, 3 bridges before you got down to where the little post office was. That was driving on the bay side down past where the mayor's cottages and houses are now, you know. And then Webb would sort the mail, and then he'd go all the way up to Woodford with it. He'd turn around up at Woodford, you know, and then he'd come back again. And his wife, in the meantime, they built a pretty good sized little building down close to the lighthouse, and it would that's where they had a little restaurant, and they would keep 2 or 3 men, families, you know, come over and stay, and she would take care of them, you know, feed them and things like that. And that's where they had a little, and all of the land from the store, from the filling station, I meant to say, all the way up to the lighthouse, that was government land all at that time. See, nobody had anything up there except we used to have a dock called the Dixie Dock. It was down close to the lighthouse on the bay side, see. And I think if I remember right, I think they sharks. They used to have fishermen catch sharks and stuff, and they butchered them and made some kind of oil out of them years and years ago. And of course, Webb Shanahan, he farmed some of the land in the meantime when he wasn't carrying the mail in between, on the government property down that way. But most of us farmed from where we lived on the corner where the station is now. We farmed along between here and the Gulf. It was bridges for us to go across a little creek, and especially right in front of where Francis Bailey's home is now. That was Mr. Bailey's, of course. It was a little road out across there, and there was a bridge to go across to the creek. And then we farmed in between that, and then on the other side of that, we raised tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. And then we put them in a packing house, and they pack them, and they wrapped each tomato with a paper, in a little basket, and then they had them in a crate. And then we'd wire the crate, then we'd take them down to the dock, and then the boat, after it come back from Captiva, taking the mail and stuff to Captiva, when it came back at 3 o'clock, it'd pick up that stuff. Then we'd take it to Fort Myers, and then they'd ship it to Baltimore and Maryland, all up in there, and that's where our produce. There was quite a few farmers over here at that time.
Did anyone raise pineapple?
No. We had tomatoes and peppers and eggplants, things like that.
Well, even after we were married, when we lived at that old house back of the road, whose house was that?
That was my brother's house, Tim.
Oh, but I used to go out in the fields and pick tomatoes and can them.
See, that was where Jake
That was
Stokes,
after we were
at the
married.
last, Jake Stokes lived there. And I don't know how
Yeah,
far
I
up the
guess so.
island it was. But my sister-in-law named Ruth, Wow, she was another Ruth, and that was my brother's wife, and she had bought that property, She come out of Missouri down here, and I think she was a teacher down here at one time someplace.
Yeah, Tia married
Yeah,
her.
he married her. And my Clarence Rutland, he must have been, I don't know how many years he was here before that, but I know he married my sister down here on Soundable because they come on their honeymoon up to Georgia while we were still up there before we had moved down here. So I don't know how many years she was here, but I know my brother Lewis, he worked farmed with Clarence Rutland, see? And my brother Tim, he was working with Mitchell. There used to be a farmer here called Mitchell. And I think they still have a son over in Fort Myers with a gas company. I'm not too sure, but he's still alive or not. They farmed here. Of course, we had 3 different families of colored people that farmed over here. One of them was Whit Carr, another one, of course, Edmund Glavis. He's over here, or I guess Edmund is still alive. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Gavin's.
Gavin's.
Mhm.
See, they was between here and where Belton Johnson. And Mr. Brewer, he had the trucking business here. His home was up at the corner there where Bailey's store, right straight ahead there. It's still there. And he would haul ice and stuff like that from the boat when it brought it into the dock, take it up to Casabell Hotel and also the Matthews Inn, we call it Island Inn at that time, Of course, Charlotta Matthews. And I never got to meet. They had just died sometime long in when I first came here, her mother and dad. So all I knew was Charlotta. And he had the trucking business, and he would go out on the beach with his truck and haul shells of people around different, other words, it's called the dray line. I guess you could call him the dray line. And well, then after that, see, all the roads here was nothing but shell. And we could go out to the beach. Mr. Rutland, my brother-in-law, Clarence Rutland, he bought a truck then so we could go out on the beach, haul shell, and then he was working for the county. So my dad and I, he'd pay us so much for each load, and then he got so much for the truck and the load. And we'd go up to the Island Inn all along there, and there'd be big banks of shell that washed in the summertime, and tides was right. and we'd haul it and put it all along the road between here and Sanibel. I mean, up to the bridge of Captiva. And then I think Jimmy Whiteman and some of the people up there, they had a truck and they'd put shell and stuff on the road from Blind Pass Bridge. See, and we'd grade the road too afterwards. It was washboardy. It was a lot of fun. And people drive around without lights. I did myself when I was working for Bailey's after we got the store going down where it was before they moving it up here along the bayside there. They still have pictures of the little truck. I think Francis and Sam said they're going to restore it, so they're going to have it back over here so we can look at it. And I drove that a lot to take it home with me at nights. And also I went up to see my wife, which is my wife now, up at she was working at Fisherman's Lodge on Captiva. And I drive all the way up there at nights, without any lights. Of course, the moonlight night and the white shell, you could see anything black. Of course, a lot of people, if you see something black, you better get off the road because it might be another car coming towards you without lights. So it was quite an experience. We had a lot of mosquitoes, I can tell you that. Moonlight nights, we'd have sandflies. Of course, we would paint some kind of oil or stuff on the windows, screens to try to keep the sandflies out, Then we'd burn insect powder in the house, and that smell would keep the sandflies out. Mosquitoes didn't bother so much in the house, Mosquito was big enough for you could kill him, but then little sandflies, you couldn't hardly see them.
Are those the new no-see-ums?
Yeah, that's some of the people call them no-see-em. We call them sandflies.
We had those in Minnesota too.
Yep.
No see 'em up on Superior.
How long did it take you to drive up to Fisherman's Lodge?
Well, I don't know. It must have been about 20 or 25 minutes to get up there, at least that time. The washboardy road, you couldn't drive there fast
Yeah.
with a Model T because they would jackknife it. If the gravel or the sand was loose, they jackknife with it, so you had to watch yourself too. Of course, it's been in that little truck, it's been in a few ditches, jackknife with me, go in, but never got hurt.
You said you didn't use headlights. Did you not have them, or
We
did you
didn't.
want to use them?
We didn't even have a headlights on that little truck. I guess the ones that did have headlights on a Model T, that was a generator outfit, but on this little truck, we just used that to haul vegetables and stuff to the store. Mr. Bailey had a colored fellow named Pete Burns, and he raised a lot of the turnips and cabbage and stuff like that. See, and then I'd go up with that little truck to the garden and get it, and we'd wash it all up, by the wells, and we'd bring it down. Mr. Bailey sold it in the store. They had a rack there for the vegetables and things like that to the tourists.
Yeah, that old Pete, that
Yeah,
colored
colored
man
guy.
Pete, he was living long after we were married.
Yeah, sure.
I remember him. And I remember Gracie, what was her last name?
Gracie
Carr. She invited us up one evening for turtle stew. That was delicious.
We call them gophers
we
at that
called them
time.
gophers, but
Yeah,
it was-
turtle there.
Yeah, and that was good. And her house was just white, just sparkled. It was so clean.
Where did she live?
Up along some side road, I don't remember,
Well,
towards the beach.
Yeah, she lived up where the old colored schoolhouse used to
Yeah.
be, up by Brewers. See the road, you go up to the Brewers there and just go to your left for a little ways. Then you turned and went up to the Island Inn, what we call the Island Inn. Then the schoolhouse and the church and stuff was right over there, and they lived close to that.
Yeah. And we went to the college school Christmas
Programs, they put on
That's
the
real
right
nice.
program now.
What kind of programs did you have at your school?
Oh, we had, like recycle, science and stuff like that, and
Reciting.
reciting and
Singing.
singing, a lot of singing. And the colored people had a lot of singing. They didn't preach too much, but they would sing songs and acts. Yeah, generally had a little act with it. Yeah, it was beautiful. And everybody knew everybody, see? And it wasn't whether they had a worth $15 million, they'd still come to the oyster roast when we had one on the beach. And if we had anything besides water to drink, iced tea, they didn't mind having some of that either, you know, whether it was made on the island or made some other place.
The millionaires were the tourists that came down?
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Yeah, we used to have a fellow named Carter. He stayed with
Nick Carter.
Carter. He
Yeah,
stayed with
yeah.
Charlotta up at the Island Inn, and he was a tourist, and he'd always come for the oysters. See, Speranza Woodrum, she would cut the coon oysters in the back of the bay, at Tarpon Bay, you know, and they was on a branch, and we'd build a big bonfire out on the beach. We'd go right straight out on the beach from where the station is now. See, there's a road and a bridge there. It went right straight out there. We'd all go over there and build this fire. We'd take these oysters on the big pole, roast them. We was pretty black looking too after we was roast oysters and stuff, but they was good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so everybody was all awful friendly.
But you know, those oyster rolls, we used to have them after we were married.
Yeah, sure.
I remember when my brother Art came down with us one trip, and we went to they went out and cut the oysters out on big old branches out in the bay, brought them in, and we roasted oysters. And that was, goodness, Wayne was born at that time. Diane was not born yet, so it's been 50-some years ago.
Besides oyster roasts, what other kind of get-togethers did you have?
Well, they had dances. Ever so often, the Island Inn would have a dance. Yeah. and
Even
so-
up at the community house.
It
they
can,
had dances
after the
like that and
community
stuff.
house was built, that was, of course, that was afterwards, you know. I know one night that we had a colored orchestra over here, and we had so many people that when they had to dance outside of the building, wasn't hardly room for us to be inside, you know. I think Muggins Underhill, his dad had pretty good size, well, they guides, you know, they were guides, take people out from the hotels to fish. And so he went over to Ponderosa and picked the guys up and brought them over. And we used to have.
Did you do much fishing?
No, I didn't. No, ma'am. Only off of the dock and stuff like that I would fish. But a lot of the tourists did, you know. And Muggins and his dad, George, well, I guess Muggins' name is George too, because Junior. They had pretty good sized boats, and they would take people out in the Gulf to fish, and also back up in the bays and up towards Captiva and St. James and stuff. See, all of that was the only way you could get to any of the places was by boat, you know. We was over here. Then after the Gladys and the Dixie stopped running, then they had one ferry they called the Bess. That was only had one, and finally Kinsey Brothers bought two more. That's the way. And then they started coming over with bringing the cars. But they brought
Say there are
cars on the Dixie too, one at a time, yeah.
That's the
That's
way my
right.
sister and I came over.
Oh,
the
you
first
come over
time.
on the ferry, but I mean
Yeah.
the Dixie and the Gladys
Yeah, that's
years
right,
ago
that was the ferry.
brought they'd bring one car. Some, you know, all depends on whether Mr. Kinsey had lumber and stuff to bring over and a lot of groceries. If he had room on the boat, he could bring one Model T besides, and that's where the cars got over here.
How far up, how many grades did the school have?
Eight.
So anyone who wanted to go to high school would
Had to go to Fort Myers and stay over there and go to school. Which was pretty expensive at that time, you know, unless they had relations living over there in town, they could stay with them and go to school. It was a
Did
lot
they
of
come
fun.
home on weekends then?
Yeah, they'd come back in weekends on the boat, yeah. Then somebody would take them to Ponderosa, you know, on Sunday afternoon so they could be, because the Gladys or the Dixie didn't run on Sundays, you know. So it was only 5 days a week, 6 days a week boat. It was a mail boat, what they call them mail boats. They took the mail from Ponderosa and delivered it to Ponderosa. And after a while, it got to be a car that come from Fort Myers and brought the mail down to Ponderosa. So, but they brought it here, and he took it to Sanibel, Captiva, Wolford. First he'd go out to Wolford with it, you know, and then go to Captiva. And then they pick up the mail sacks there, and then they turn around, come back, and they got back down to Bailey's store about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then
About how many people actually lived on the two islands?
at that time, it probably was,
Wasn't many.
it wasn't many. I would say 150 maybe, different families. That's about
I know
all it was.
Woodlands were there when we were there, when we first came. Living in Minnesota when you kids were born and then,
Yeah, but she said 1953.
oh yeah, oh, well, let's see.
I was
53.
here then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We were
then
all living.
we had I used to have a doctor down close to your place there too.
Pickens?
Pickens, yeah, Dr.
Yeah,
Pickens.
Doc, we called him Doc.
Yeah.
Now he's not called Doc anymore. His son is called Ben, we used to call him Jimmy.
Yeah.
And Doc is called James.
But he's still alive there.
He's still alive and they
Everybody
live,
got a new name.
and they live in trailer park, maybe Century 21, close to Sandville.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
close to Iona in there
I
through
remember
there.
being in
Yeah.
your seaforth shop.
yeah,
Sure do.
sure, in 53, we had both your kids down.
Oh, yeah. Well, we all moved down here.
I
in
know we
50,
did, we moved down in 51.
Then we had
51.
Dr. Pickens had a brother-in-law or something like that. It was in the carpenter business.
A cousin,
Cousin?
whose name was Bob Stevens.
Stevens, yeah, he did a lot of building here
Yes,
too.
he did.
And we painted a lot of his houses for him, I know he came over.
Yeah, Bob built quite a lot of houses.
Yeah, I suppose all of them, Stevens is gone.
Well, his wife died quite a few years ago,
Yeah.
maybe 12, and he remarried and is living off the island too. So many people. are
How about the
living
Wades? They lived down there close to where you were too, you know, that they had a few houses, I mean,
here. And they had
cottage.
that little marina that
Yeah.
is now grown to be Sanibel Marina.
Yeah,
They're still alive. They were divorced.
yeah,
And,
imagine.
Bill married someone else who died, and he lives up near his daughter Vicky in Inverness. And Muriel lives up there too.
Well, didn't they have a son that was married to one of the Beulah Wilds'
Yes,
daughters at one
Jerry
time?
Ray,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Jerry.
And he used to do,
He's a fishing
commercial
guy.
fishing.
Yeah, he was a fishing
Yes,
guy.
right.
He
He,
still-
last
He
time
still lives here.
last time I heard he was at Tarpon Bay, wasn't he? Guiding out of Tarpon Bay, or wasn't he?
Well, I don't remember. The last time I knew him, he was guiding out of Tween Waters.
Oh, he could have been out of Tween Waters. Yeah, well, Tween Waters and.
So his parents started that marina?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
You see, when we came here, there were no canals down there.
Oh, no.
Do you remember a fellow named Kelly?
Yes,
He cut all those canals and.
he spoiled the island by putting all them canals in. One of these days to get another storm like 26 and it's gonna be terrible.
That's right. In the 1960 hurricane, we went down and stayed at Francis Bailey's house because we were afraid that the island would be cut off in
Right.
that little bridge.
Right. Yeah, that 26 was bad. It comes straight out of the south, you know, right over the island. See, and Donna came kind of angling to the island a little bit.
From the bay
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Well, D. Kelly cut those canals, and Bill immediately bought a couple of lots there and started Bill Way, started that little marina.
No, cause I came over here quite a few times too for a fellow named Gickstead.
Oh, yes.
He lived on down.
Harvey.
Yeah,
Harvey
Harvey
What
Gickstead.
happened to them?
They moved off the island and back on the island.
Yeah, I know it, cause he built a nice house down between here and kept the island in there, see?
I think they're gone again.
I think they are
Yeah,
too,
so-
if it's, we haven't seen them in church
She
since we
wants,
came back.
wants her to shut up now. Can we get,
Shell roads everywhere.
Oh, yeah, and no lights either, I bet. Did they have lights, the electric?
Yes, the
Oh, they did.
electricity came to about 41.
Or it didn't?
I think it came to Lee County in 1940, but Sanibel was always at the end of the line,
Yeah,
I
so
know
we
there
were
was
last.
Many
Oh,
years that we didn't
This-
have it when we were here.
But,
yeah, the kerosene lights was pretty common all over.
well, even in 1953, the electricity would go out for hours at a
Mm-hmm.
time. Everybody had candles or kerosene lamps
Maybe,
and gas stoves to cook.
Oh, sure. That's all
imagine
it
you
was.
remember who the people was that bought all that property from the government?
Oh, yes, a man named Simmons,
Yeah,
do you remember?
Simmons, yeah, I remember.
Ernest Kinsey.
Yeah, he had a little bit of it.
And
not
Bob
too much.
Monteith.
Yeah, they all bought it,
Remember Bob started the colony?
yeah.
I remember the name, I didn't know him.
Well, I didn't remember, of course, Ernest was young, the same as I am, you know, but his dad and his brother, they was rough characters. I mean, they wasn't rough, but I mean,
Who's,
Mr. Kinsey, you know,
Oh.
when he come with the Gladys of the Dixie, the wind was blowing a little bit and boat was bouncing against the dock, you know, a little bit. I can't stay here, and then he said, I'll come back after I've been to Captiva and see how the wind is and all. He wouldn't do it, but, yeah, he's quite a guy.
Well, his wife, Mrs. Kinsey, Ernest's mother, was
Yeah.
a lovely lady.
Oh, yeah, sure, but he was just rough, talking like, I mean, he tries to take care of his boats, you know, he's an old sea captain, that's
oh,
what
you
I
can't
like to
really
call
hope for that.
Sure.
No. And before the 1960 hurricane, they took the ferries up for safekeeping,
Yeah, up there.
up the creeks
Right, yeah.
in Fort Myers.
That's where a lot of people used to go with it. I mean, when the lighthouse guys, Matt
McLean
McLean
and
and
Lula.
old man
Lula, did you know Lula?
Demery,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
they was lighthouse keepers, and they take the government boat, see, up there too, and then put it in. See, they had that at the lighthouse top on Bay. They kept it most of the time. Then they go down top on Bay and get it. See, all of them beacons of lights between here and Fort Myers was all kerosene. So they'd have to take kerosene in the government boat and pour it all in those lights up and down the river that blinked, you know. They were always a kerosene.
Did every lighthouse keeper have to do that?
No, well, let's see, it was Mr. Demery and Mac. Those two had to
well,
do it.
Mac was,
Well,
lighthouse.
Lewis and Clarence, I don't know whether they had a boat at that time or not to go, but I know they had to put kerosene in the lighthouse. And they'd walk up the stairs to do that.
But I know when we were here, McLean, Lula, and Mac,
Well,
they were
McLean
some of our
worked for
best
She
friends.
was
I've eaten up
bookkeeper
there
for
at the
Mr. Frank
lighthouse.
Bailey.
Was Webb Shanahan the same one that we called Pappy Shanahan?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right.
Snooky's father.
Yeah.
Skinny, tall guy.
Yes.
He
yes.
loved to waltz, and he waltzed right on his toes too. His heels never hit the floor when he was dancing.
And his wife's name was Pearl.
I never knew.
She was a
Yeah.
half-sister of Clarence Rutland. Real nice lady.
What about the hotel that they ran? Shanahan?
Shanahan's, that hotel, yeah, it wasn't too big. They could only have, say, maybe 10 at the most people staying there with them, you know. And then it was American side, you know. They'd feed them and everything like that. People that came there would come back again the next winter, you know. I mean, be the same ones, because they wouldn't change. They liked the islands well. The food too, I suppose. And the prices maybe was cheaper than the Island Inn or the
I often wonder what they got there
Casabell.
by that
Fella
time.
had Casabell, and his name was Charlie Knapp.
I remember
Oh,
Charlie.
yeah.
What a
He was
character.
quite a character, I can tell you that.
But at the Shanahan's place, I heard that's where Edna St. Vincent Millay's manuscript was burned.
Oh, well, that I didn't.
That when the place burned down.
Good.
Possible, I suppose.
I know her daughter Snooky, one we call Snooky, had the shell shop right down there close to where Clarence's house is.
She was married to James Williams.
yeah. And she could play the piano, goodness gracious, but
She played
get
the
it-
air.
it's hard to get her to play. Yeah, that James Williams was quite a guy too, wasn't he?
Yes.
Who's
Oh, we
paying
gotta
it?
have a few of those, you know, to make the world go.
In the end, he inherited this house.
Sure did. He
He
inherited
did.
everything.
Oh, my.
Yeah, because Clarence left everything to
Sure.
Snooky,
Yeah.
and then
That's
Snooky
true,
died
that's
quick.
true, yeah.
Sure.
Soon after Clarence died.
Yeah, not too long, she had cancer for that, I know.
And then they had property in Alaska too. James and Clarence went up to Alaska and bought some property, so James got that too.
She must be well healed.
Yeah.
Then he got married, and then I don't know what happened to him. But I know I didn't. I slept in this house there quite a few times
Oh, I did
when
too.
my sister was here, and I had a couple of glass vases, cut glass, and I remember helping Mother wrap them in Georgia, and before we put them in the trunk, so we'd be sure we got them down here. And Sister had them in the house in the front room there, and I told Clarence, I said, "Now Clarence, I want them vases because they belong to Mother." I said, "They didn't belong on your side." So, "Oh yeah," he says, "you can have them as I go along." And then I should have swiped them when I sold them because I never got them. I don't know who got those glasses, but
You didn't get anything from Ruth.
Really.
Well, we would have liked some of the things to be here
Mhm.
in the
Would have
museum,
been nice.
Yeah.
but everything went. James took everything.
How about Clarence Rutland's, all of his cases of shells and Janonias and Scotch bonnets and
I don't-
all of that?
I don't know what happened to him.
I had an idea maybe he gave them to the.
Well,
to
they
the
couldn't be able to
shell.
keep them, Mother. I told her that and with the community house, when they used to have the shell business there, which they still do, don't they?
Yes, the shelf
Well,
there.
yeah, shell fair. Then Clarence would take his, each one would bring.
Well, where are all those shells between shows now?
Well, the people would take them home, Mother.
Do they?
Yes,
Oh,
they
sure.
bring
There
their
it is.
collection.
Yeah, they bring
each
the
time.
collection there, see, and he had it all in gas, and
I
he had
know
some
did.
beautiful
He had
stuff.
some beautiful shells.
So he'd take them back home because he had them right in the hallway here
Mhm.
when the house was
He had
down there.
several showcases.
You know, a minute ago you were talking about Charlie Knapp.
Yeah,
Do you remember he used to always wear his watch on his hand?
Yeah,
He never
right.
wore it on his
no,
wrist.
it's always in there, across his
I
hand.
guess that's true.
Yeah,
That's
he-
true.
He got quite a little bit of money out of that when he sold Casabel. I don't know whether it did him any good or not.
Well,
but-
Charlie had, I thought, bad luck, the way I heard it,
Yeah, could have.
because he had storm after storm
Yeah, sure.
when he owned it. And the 44 was a bad one.
Yeah, well, that's the one that salt water come all over the island and killed the lime trees and stuff like that. My sister told me about that.
I know a lot of the buildings went off their footing, off their foundations, and some were lost to sea.
Yeah.
And he was disgusted, so many storms, and one time crossing the ferry, he talked to a man named Howard Dayton. And the way I heard the story was the transaction was made right there.
Oh, for goodness
He
sake.
sold it. And then there wasn't a hurricane again until 1960, and it didn't bother them at all over
Right,
there.
right.
Well, I suppose he had a wife too, Charlie Knapp? I
Oh,
don't-
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I
Bessie.
don't know. I
Betsy,
don't
yeah,
remember
sure,
her.
Betsy, oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't remember her.
Well, she was quiet,
She stayed at home more.
paled by comparison to the
Mhm.
character of Charlie Knapp.
Yeah,
Do you remember he went up to manage South Seas Plantation in the summer times anyway,
Wow.
after he sold Casabel? In the summertime, it was run like a fishing camp,
Yeah.
South Seas was.
Yeah.
They had a lot of doctors come down from Tampa.
See,
St. Pete.
they started that after the Fisherman's Lodge in Captiva burnt down, and then they started that up there, I think. And that's quite a place now. You gotta show you when you was born and when you got married and everything else to get in up there nowadays. That's what I hear. I haven't tried it. Yeah, even this guy, Belton Johnson, he lived in a little house there on the left-hand side before you get to right straight ahead with Mr. Brewer's home, see? And Belton lived in a little house right there, side there on the left.
Did he, it was his family's property where the Bailey store and the whole shopping center
Yeah,
is now.
that whole business in that, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Mr. Brewer. Did he stay here year-round when he had the dray?
Yeah, no, he could be gone for a while. He'd go up there where he was from. He and his wife would take a little vacation, and he'd go, and then he'd come back. But he didn't spend too much money for traveling, you know. He had the dray line, and I don't know what else he do. I think he
Now,
did-
that's where the shopping center is now.
Yeah, uh-huh. No, it's, you know, it's where the post office was at one time before you moved it now.
Yes, I mean the deli and
Yeah.
those shops.
Uh-huh.
The old post office
Yeah,
deli.
well,
Shell shop
straight
we were in
ahead
it
there.
last
Called
time.
Calamity Jane's now.
Yeah,
Well, that may be.
that was Brewer's house there. That's where Brewer lived.
I know
And
Mrs.
right around the
Brewer was-
corner, to the left, where what do you call it, Coconut Grove Restaurant, right between that and where the road is now, it used to go up there a little ways and then turn to your right and go up to the Island Inn.
Mhm.
Then we had, you remember the church, the schoolhouse where
Yes.
the colored people went?
Yes.
Yeah, that was right there on the left.
Uh-huh.
We used to go up there on Christmas too and watch the colored people sing and stuff. They didn't have a piano. All they had to do was just start clapping and they'd get the rhythm and boy, could they sing.
Quite a few on the island too.
Do
Sure.
you
it was
remember,
flat.
I heard that colored school closed when Edmund Gavin moved to Fort Myers and took all his children.
Oh, that I
Was
don't
that
know.
the reason that closed?
I don't know.
It's possible. See, we
Well,
lived
he
in
moved back
Minnesota
over
for
here,
several
Edmund
years.
did.
Yeah, later he came
On
back.
Rabbit Road, didn't they build a house for him on Rabbit Road to get his property?
Well, he was really just a squatter on the property that was sold to Ding Darling eventually.
Yeah.
I think that Ellie Dormer's mother, Aunt Daisy Mayer,
Yeah.
owned the property that the Gavins lived on.
Oh,
And see where Nade's Plumbing is now, or was at one time, going up towards the Brewers on the right-hand side?
Yes.
That's where the old man, Gavins, lived. He had quite a few boys, you know, 2 or 3 boys. One of them is,
Then he must have lived there before they went back
and
to
Gavins,
Fort
Gavins bought that, I mean, I don't know who he bought it from, but the colored check was there. That's where the Edmund and Isaiah, his daddy name was Isaiah too. See, he was farming with another colored fellow over here farming was Preche. And what was that? Well, and you said we went up Gracie Carr.
mm-hmm.
See, I think it was three or four different colored families here was farming at
They
the
were.
time.
Did they work for other people?
No,
Some
well, some
of
of
them
they worked for other people, but they farmed for themselves. So, of course,
Like this
yeah.
Pete
See, Mr. Francis
Mr.
Braley
Cahill.
was the father of all of us, we'll say, Mr. Bailey. He's the one that had the money, and he kind of backed us a little bit in the farming business. See, that's the way they got out of the farming, see.
Uh-huh.
Then, when we gather the stuff, see, you know, where the packing houses was right out in front of, almost in front of where Francis' house is now, down here. That's where Mr. Bailey's, that greenhouse was.
Yes, down
famous thing.
Domax or down that,
No, it went right down here,
And-
just a little ways.
yeah.
Down.
But the packing house was in front?
No, the packing house was across the road over there in the field.
Oh.
So at that time, but after a while, Mr. Bailey moved to packing houses when he put the store up to where, before you move it here on the bay side, after he lost the other one. Then he put the packing houses down there by the store. Then we'd and they'd take the tomatoes and stuff like that. They would crate it and haul it out on the dock from there. Of course, Clarence Rutland now, he had his own packing house there close to where he lived, you know.
Did you know the Riddles? They had a packing house on Casabel Road.
I didn't.
No.
Maybe that was earlier.
Yeah, I think that was early then. I don't remember that. But I know the Casabel road is still down here by the bank where we used to go out to Casabel,
Yeah.
you know. Curves and cross the creeks and stuff like that.
You said something about a creek around the Bailey house, and I was trying
Just
to...
a little ways in front. As we was going, see, it was a little road right in front of Bailey's house that went over to the Gulf side, you know. And then there was a bridge, a little bridge there. See, so you didn't have to drive down in the water with your mules and your wagons. So you could go over the little bridge. It wasn't too big a bridge. It wouldn't carry too much weight, you know. No automobiles went over there, just us wagons and mules. And
Well, now, was
wagons.
that creek part of what they called the slough?
Yeah, well, it
That
was
now
a
they-
smooth water, yeah.
They call it the river.
Yeah, I suppose.
the Sandow River?
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
I didn't even know there was a Sandow River.
Well, that's what
West.
Francis Bailey said.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
I didn't know
He
that.
still calls that a slough.
Yeah, it's a slough. Then see down towards where the post office was, it was little bridges there across the slough, because the water would run out from the mainland and run into the bay. See, so they had little bridges there for the Model Ts to go across. You know.
There were times there too you had to walk
Yeah,
to the post office.
Yeah.
The road would be covered with water.
and if you wanted to get to Sam Woodrin's down to where they lived,
They had a boardwalk.
you go so far with your car,
Uh-huh.
and you be sure you turned it around and headed it back the other way, because when you left Sam's place, you probably wouldn't know how to turn it around, so you only know how to drive it straight down the road, because that was a bootlegger
Yeah.
place, yeah.
I heard you talk about tea at the picnics before. I knew that isn't exactly what you meant.
Well, when I first, Mrs. Chandler, she was a lady that had a house over on, close to the Island Inn, and she was from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I came, and she fired her chauffeur, and Mr. Bailey and them got me to start driving her around over in Sandoval. Then her husband came down, they talked me into driving her back to Harrisburg. But she rode the train when I drove up, so he and I took the car. So, yeah.
Oh, you were her chauffeur then?
Yeah, that's the
For
way I
some
got
time.
up to to Harrisburg, was being a chauffeur. And then she had a place in,
That's before I met him.
yeah. And she had a home in Connecticut, so we'd go over Black Mountain to that house, stay there a couple of months in the summertime, and then we come back to Harrisburg. And then we come back to her house here in Sandoval, up by the Island Inn.
What about freezes or red tides?
No, we never heard of any
Never
red
heard
tide.
anything like that.
We had freezes quite a few times, because the snook would they would get so cold, see. They come up in the water right close to shore, and you could reach out and throw them up on the bank. Of course, you wasn't allowed to do that, but anyway, we did that. That was down by where Susprandza Woodrin lives now. Way down at the end, there used to be a two-story house right on the end down there at that time, and we would
What
go
was
down there
their
and
name
select.
that had that? I used to, we.
Yeah.
Brewer.
Huh?
Brewer.
Brewer, wasn't
Brewer,
it?
yeah, we
Yeah,
used to
something
go to
like that.
dances, they'd have a dance now and
Yeah.
then in their house. Uh-huh.
So you go down as far as you could, the other side of the post office, and if it was going to be high tide, so you turn your car around, so it had a kind of a space there, a little parking lot, you know, because it was black dirt, black in the Dickinson. If it was wet, you would get stuck there before you come home, see, and you'd get out, then you'd walk all the way on the boardwalk over to Sam's, putting it to Sam's house there where the little road is.
I never heard of anyone falling off, but I bet they did.
Well, they had a little railing along on the
Yeah,
side of it.
great.
So that's where, because he got his stuff out from we used to have the
She
ship
still
share.
lives in that old house over there, Springs.
Yes.
We were up there 2 years ago and visited with her.
She's
little-
not too well now.
Oh, is it? We must go. up and
Yeah,
see.
she would know more about this island than I do, because she was here before I ever came, you know.
She
She has
was a
cancer.
character.
She has cancer.
Yeah.
now.
Oh, does she really?
Yeah, she's just going through a series of radiation treatments.
Oh, I didn't know that. Always barefoot.
I
Yeah.
think Esperanza must be 90.
Oh, I bet she's past that.
And it used to be some people over here that farmed too. There was Mitchells. And
Dean Mitchell is
Yeah.
the son of those people,
Yeah.
and his daughter is still here. And she,
isn't the boy still working for one of the gas companies in Fort Myers?
I don't
Mitchell?
think Dean is alive
No,
anymore.
maybe no.
His daughter
Well, now see,
owns the Sandcastles Motel. She runs that.
say now. See, we had two Mitchells over here now. The one up by Captiva Bridge.
Oh, that's
Say-
the one I was thinking of.
Oh
Stella,
yeah, see, that's a
Stella
different
Mitchell.
one than the other one that lived right up the. I don't know exactly where I'm at now because it's all tore up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know about those.
Yeah,
Mitchells.
that Mitchell was a farmer. One thing. And this other Mitchell, yeah, it was,
He had groves.
he had all them cottages there.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money. Yeah, it's a lot of water over the dam.
Okay. It's many, many years.
Well, now in your family there was Ruth, who married Clarence Rutland,
Yes,
and Lewis,
it was.
and who
And
was?
Tim, he was at the
Oh,
captivity.
oh yeah, married Beulah.
Yeah,
And Homer
and Homer,
was the oldest of the
yeah,
family.
he was there. He married a lady
From
from
Key
Key
West.
West. She called her
Gracie.
Key West. Gracie.
I don't think I ever
Oh, yeah,
met
she
him.
was a nice little
Then
lady.
Lyman Frank, he farmed he farmed here for a while. Then he went to Iona.
Now, is that his grandson or his son who's at the bank over here? The bank, Community Bank of the Islands.
I don't know, must be a grandson. Anyway, see, and then we had a fellow named that farmed at Iona too. That Tim worked for my brother for a while. Raised a lot of Irish potatoes, Santina, and he got all of the beach property in time. You know, they used to have a railroad that come. The train used to come right down to almost Fort Myers Beach. As you're going into Fort Myers Beach, on the left-hand side, it used to be a big warehouse there to handle the produce at Santina. Bernard Santina was his name. See?
Still a lot of Santinis around
Yeah,
over
yeah.
there.
And then one that was flying pretty high now, that he kind of run into something up above, and it kind of took him down a little bit. So then
Yeah, that was John, wasn't it?
Yeah, John
Wasn't that
Santina, yeah.
Santina?
Yeah, he kind of lost his.
He's about our son's age,
Yeah.
I guess. They were
He
kids.
was way up in the millions, and then all of a sudden he flew too high.
Was he a partner with a man named Sword?
Yeah, right.
S.W.
Sword.
Yeah.
Sword Santina.
Sword is still in the business. 'Cause
Big
see,
time
our son-
developers.
Our son is in the carpet business, see, so he got involved in a lot of the Swords' property and homes and condominiums in Bonita Beach. You know, they had down at Bonita, they got quite a few there, condominiums.
One time I was down at Marathon and there was somebody who trained dolphins, claimed to have trained
Oh.
the one for the Flipper series,
Oh.
and turned out he was a Santini too, part of
Yeah.
that family
Well,
from
it
the
could have
beach.
been a lot of those Santinas. I don't know. I remember the one in the John.
Do you remember any fires on the island?
Yes, we had, once in a while, we did get a fire in the sawgrass, but it was kind of good in a way to burn some of the sawdust down, and that way we got rid of a few of the rattlesnakes. We had a lot of rattlesnakes over here at one time, lots of them,
You know, the fire spread because,
of that dry sawgrass, and we had,
yes, and then the cabbage palms,
it was so dry and fell.
when they got hot and started burning, that moist part in the center would
Kind of
be like a
explode, wasn't it?
boiler and explode,
Yeah,
and the
explode.
fronds would shoot all over and spread the fire.
Yeah, mm,
It was said after Howard Dayton owned the
Casabel,
Casabel Hotel that they had an awful lot of fires over there.
yeah.
And people wondered usually, who started this one?
Who started that one, huh? Yeah, well, it was things like that going on in those days that it is now, you know.
This is 1903. I had an idea that was the year that Clarence came down, but I don't know. Just seems to.
You
Stick
said
in
that
my mind.
Clarence and your sister Ruth married on the island?
As far as I know, they were, yeah, 'cause they come up to, because he was smoking cigars at that time,
Who, Clarence?
Clarence was, and he brought a box of Tampa Nuggets along, you know. And they was staying in the front room there, so his box was on the dresser, so I swiped one and went out on top of the shed and was smoking it, and I got pretty sick. So he says, I know what happened to him, how come he's so sick? So I was just a little shaver at that time, I guess.
This is the last day of the ferry.
Is that the last day of the
Uh-huh.
cemetery? Oh,
Yeah,
I know my sister and I
He was
drove down.
pretty
We
good
got
shape
as
at
far
that
as,
time before he had to go over to
Venice.
Shell
And I
Point
said,
Village
gee,
there for a
it's
while.
afternoon, I think we ought to spend the night here, because I said, after the ferry quits running, then you just don't get to the island. So we spent the night in Venice and came down the next day,
Yeah,
so we'd
you
be
had-
sure to get to that ferry landing before evening.
Yeah, you had, if you missed the 5 o'clock or 5:30
You
or
stayed
5
all night
o'clock, I think
somewhere,
you
and you
had
didn't
to,
know where to stay.
unless you wanted to have a spay, $15 or $20, I think
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a special fare, and then he'd bring
We
you
didn't
over.
have many $15, $20
I
those
know it,
days.
but that's, they used to bring the gas truck over after hours, to Bailey's store for gas.
But she and I sure didn't know what we were getting into, where we were going, it was sure wild in that day and age.
it must have
Oh,
been.
my land, a little old two-lane gravel road down to Ponderosa
What time of year was that?
in January. It was, I think the folks thought we were playing crazy leaving up there. It was a blizzard, more or less of a blizzard. The snow was blowing across the road. It gets cold in Minnesota.
That road was low at Ponderosa,
Oh, yeah.
very
Yeah,
low
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah, in high
summer,
tide, it would be water, always
Yeah.
drive to
And
drive
these
into
little old
water.
fiddler crabs running.
oh, do you
along.
remember by the thousands?
Sure,
Oh, yeah,
right.
we used to catch them for fishing.
Yeah, sheephead likes those, and that's what we used
That's
to
what we
fish
always
with.
used for fishing bait.
Over at Tarpon Bay too, they were
Yeah.
there by the hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
thousands. Run up your legs.
The one with the thorns would pinch it too.
I don't know if you ever remember C.A.A. Nelson, the people that we came down to visit that winter.
No, I don't
See,
remember.
Bailey,
He was quite a character too.
Bailey owned all the property where his store and the tea room, see?
Mhm.
And right alongside, right other side of where the tea room sits down there now, was Ross Mayer, Martin Mayer's house. His line started there, see, theirs. It was three brothers of the Mayers, So they owned that property from there, quite a ways down, along it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Martin Mayer
And Ross Mayer.
Ross Mayer, that's Mrs. Eleanor is Ross Mayer's daughter. But Martin Mayer, Isabel.
Isabel Kirkpatrick.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
What
see,
happened to her? Did they?
Isabel
was she
died.
I know. Was she cremated? We wanted to go to her funeral. We noticed the paper in Fort Myers that she had died. And
Yeah,
we kept
I-
watching.
I-
We never heard one. There wasn't even another write-up in the paper about
I
her.
don't know.
We never did hear if she was cremated or what happened to the body. She was a very good friend. She's the first friend I had when I came to Florida.
Oh, was she?
Uh-huh, on Sanibel Island, I mean. She was my first real friend. She and Snooky.
Oh,
See, I
Uh-huh.
don't believe Joe, if I remember right, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think Joe ever built a house down here, see? But Ross and Martin did.
mhm.
But,
Well, Ross's house was one of those Sears houses.
it is.
Yeah.
Cause I know, Ellen and them lived in it for a while.
Yes.
And Betty, their daughter, sister, Eleanor, she was here at that time too.
You know,
Then they
Isabel.
built a new one, I guess, at Dormont.
Yes, they have a fine new.
Yeah.
Isabel left her house to the daughter of the housekeeper.
Oh, she
That the-
did.
They had
Yeah, what was her name, the
Virginia.
housekeeper?
Well,
What was
I
she
only know
called
the
her?
daughter's name, Virginia.
No, but I mean the housekeeper. She was like a mother to Isabel.
Yes, she was.
Mhm.
And then the housekeeper's daughter and Isabel
I
became
see.
fast friends.
Oh, I see.
And Virginia used to visit Isabel
Mhm.
from Michigan, and was
don't-
surprised to find that she inherited the
Oh, we
house.
didn't know what happened at all, no.
See, Mr. Martin there, I don't think he was ever married, to tell you the truth. I don't believe he was. I went up to Erie, Pennsylvania too, where the homes are and everything. Well, I drove Mr. Martin Mayer's car up for him in the last years. See, he had a housekeeper named Mrs. Rice.
That's
Her
the
name was
one,
Rice.
that was Mrs. Rice, that was Isabel's
Oh, well,
More or less mother, she considered her a mother more
Yeah.
or less.
well,
see-
Isabel and Jack were adopted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the boy
I know.
and
She never
Isabel was
really had a
adopted.
mother, I don't think.
No, so Mrs. Rice brought him up.
Mhm.
Miss
Oh.
Martin's
Mrs. Rice was
housekeeper.
like a mother to her.
See, that was a housekeeper, so he had the little house.
I see.
He had the little house on the north side, and Ross had the big house, he is his brother. And Joe, I don't think.
I never knew the background.
Yeah.
Mhm. She was really the first
Yeah,
friend that we met on the island, my sister and I. We went on
Isabel's
beach
brother.
parties together and things. Uh-huh.
Isabella's brother, he was a character.
Well,
She-
Isabel was too, in a certain sense.
was,
I
I
don't
mean,
she
he
was
would
nice.
buy,
Yeah,
he
Isabel
would buy
was.
boats and stuff for that son, and he would tear them up.
Yeah,
and he
and
bought
planes, and he'd tear,
cars and
wreck the
stuff.
plane.
He'd come out on this here dock where the store was, and he'd come out there fast, and he'd drive right almost down the chute with it, you know. And Mr. Bailey said, I hope someday he'd go all the way over. But he never did. He'd stop and back up, you know. I mean, he was, oh, and then boats, you know, the Chris Crafts, you know, that was an expensive boat back in those days. It still is. And all varnished decks and stuff like that, you know. He'd tear them up, though.
He died a lot earlier than
Oh,
Isabel
yeah,
did.
yeah, right, yeah, he died before Isabel did.
I went to see Isabel just a few days before she passed away in the Lee Memorial Hospital. But then we read in the paper where she passed away whenever
She had a leg.
had her leg
Yeah.
amputated, I think.
And she
Diabetes.
said that she could still feel her leg, you know, from,
Mhm.
it's a feeling there.
But I don't know if she was cremated or what
I,
happened because we
I
never did
don't
hear.
remember.
We wanted to
I
go
think
to
I
s-
must have been away from the island, or I would remember.
we
Now,
wanted to go to her
Ross
funeral.
was a son of, and he started this, where is it, along here someplace?
Little real estate.
Real estate,
Mhm.
of course, and then he died. He still owns that property or that real estate, or somebody buy him out?
Somebody did buy him out,
Yeah.
and it was Ellie Dormer's husband.
Oh,
And then he sold out to Bob Vartdahl.
See, there were quite a few years that we lived in Minnesota between,
Yeah,
Yeah,
13.
specify which years you were here, if you can, like 1924 through what period?
let's say we were married in 36 and I would come back during the winter. And then in 39 Wayne was born, so then it was to stay one place or the other, you know, so we stayed in Minnesota
for
for
13 years.
13 years and then we came back.
So it was, so you can see it was everything built
So you
up.
were here in the 20s and 30s.
20s,
And then
30s.
not in the 40s, and
Right.
then returned in the 50s.
That's about it, yes.
Mhm.
Because he was born in 39, Diane was born in 41, so we stayed in
What
Minnesota.
was it like when you returned in the 50s compared to what you remember?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Well, there was a big change, but there was
We had to-
still, did we have lights? Yeah, we did, I guess. Your sister did, I don't know.
It was a lot of change.
There were a
Back-
lot of changes. I
You had,
know.
didn't you have the tar road a little ways? It went as far as Brewer's Corner,
Yes,
then it stopped.
Yes.
And the rest of it had come afterwards.
it was washboard
Yeah, I know,
Up to
that's
Cap-
to
up to
Captiva,
Captiva.
yeah. See, the only place that the 1926 hurricane Gulf water didn't go over was Wolford. See, it was much higher up there, see? So the water didn't get over where Wolford is, you know. See, Wolford used to be a big house, they had a store, and they had all kinds of stuff at Wolford did years and years ago.
That was before I
Sure.
don't remember
See,
any of that.
You remember where Bowman's Beach is? I mean, it's Bowman's Beach up there, and
Yeah.
Wolford used to be down there on the bayside.
Now, was Arthur Gibson's family up there?
Yeah, mm-hmm,
They had a packing house too.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Art Gibson was Pearl Stokes' uncle.
See, and that Stokes, see, Jake Stokes is the one that got the hold of where Tim used to live, my brother was married to. And that's where we stayed for a while, so finally Jake Stokes got a hold of that one.
Well, Jake and Pearl had moved away quite
Yeah,
a few
right,
years
yeah.
ago. But they still have grandchildren on the island
Yeah, they should.
because
That
Marty
might be.
married the Jenkins girl. One of the Jenkins girls.
Then you have what they used to call, I don't know what was his name, but it was Rhodes. used to have some roads is over here
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, he scraped the roads for the county. Is that the road you mean? We had two families
Yeah.
of roads.
I know they had a couple of boys, one boy especially was a little rough side,
Oh, that was Irving, I guess.
you know.
Irving.
Irvin, yeah,
Yeah.
Irvin Roads.
And they had
That's-
it,
That's
excuse me.
when, was Jack Cole that had the little restaurant
yes.
Mhm.
right across there. Yeah. And of course, his daughter was married to Ralph first,
Mhm.
Ralph Woodard.
yeah.
And one
One was
daughter
married to a
married
Miller.
Dewey Miller.
Mhm.
He's still down at Tarpon Bay then?
No,
No, he's gone
Yeah.
too.
yeah.
Well, we really never kept up with the Sanibel Island much after
I know.
that.
This roads, I remember, Jack Cole was served a rattlesnake one day. A bunch of the workers and stuff, we'd come in there to eat. It was away on the island. And this, we thought it was beef or, I don't know what we thought it was. Anyway, it was good. So he told us after we had ate and paid our bill, that was rattlesnake. And this Rhodes, I remember him saying when he heard the rattlesnake, he went right out the door and everything, all of his lunch meat. He lost his dinner. Because he wasn't about to eat in the rattlesnake. And,
But they say it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that though. Have you, Di?
Yeah, I thought it tasted something like chicken.
Yeah, I thought you
well,
did.
anyway, beef or chicken. I
You
don't know.
even
Well,
eat?
you know, his wife was a school bus driver.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And,
Didn't she have an accident or something?
well, I was thinking of, when you were mentioning the snake, I was thinking of Gopher.
Oh, yeah, go for it. That's
You know-
nice beef.
Well, she had a big family to feed, and her husband didn't work too much.
Mhm.
So when the school bus passed a gopher, that's the turtle that lives in
Yeah.
the hole in the ground, she'd stop the bus and go out and get it and bring it in, put it on its back, and continue on. And that would be their dinner.
Oh, sure. We ate that, this colored lady fixed that
Yeah,
up there, Gracie Carr, up there close to the
it was
Brewers
good too,
Corner there.
very good.
Yeah, we went in there, Webb Shanahan,
I don't remember who and how many of us.
I
were
think
there.
Clarence and sister, and Webb Shanahan and us two went up there. Gracie fed us that meal. And you know, the wood floors, they scrubbed it with lye then, you know, at that time. And boy, she had a wood floor just as white with that lye, you know, I mean, but she was a good housekeeper.
Well,
And
now
she
this
was a
house,
colored
as
gal.
far as I know, has never had carpeting. Ruth's house never had carpeting, did it?
No, unless they had a scattered rugs or
Well, maybe
something.
scattered
Mhm.
rugs, but it never
Yeah.
was carpeted.
And this is the same floor, that's
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure.
original floor.
But there used to be a kitchen back in here, yeah.
There is.
Oh, there is. That's where, she used to keep that floor scrubbed so clean. But this was always uncarpeted.
it's a big, well, that's your table.
Yeah,
and
sure, she had
front room was
big,
in
big
here.
rugs in here. But it was such a nice airy house. Open the windows from, you know, the air would just go
Yes.
through. It was real.
It caught
nice.
every breeze.
Yeah.
Everything.
It was made
Beautiful.
specially, designed especially
And no
for this
fans,
climate.
no nothing those days. I don't know how a person could live. Now, if you don't have air conditioning, you think you're dying.
Yeah, I don't know how they could live
They
with
didn't have any fans
mosquitoes.
because there's no electricity to run a fan.
Oh, you knock them off. I remember one time I was
Terrible.
setting out tomato plants for my dad. We was farming. And it was back in front of Mr. Bailey's house down there, Francis' house, ever who has it now. Anyway, we was over there putting out tomato plants. I had on a overalls jacket, you know, to try and keep them from biting through. And they were still, when you bend over to put out the plants, you know, everything was set by hand, you know. And I took the bunch of tomato plants and forgot myself, and I hit them. Of course, I bruised them all, so I had to look around to see where my dad was. So I took them over to the edge of the field and dug them down with my shoe, you know, and put them down underneath and went back to the... And we raised our own plants over here, too, but we have seed beds, you know, and we'd have to cover them up with seagrass, you know, because it gets so hot in July, and it would burn the plants, the little tomato plants as it's coming up. And we had wells. We'd always dig a well close to the where we had the seed beds. And sometimes they'd be salty, see, we have to keep, you know.
How
they
far
were
down would you have to go?
Not too far, for we'd have fresh water. That's where they got the water over here, you know, was a little, what do you call them thing, points that they drive down, you know, and have a pitcher pump. Except the, what do you call them, cisterns, but they'd catch the rainwater, see. That was mostly for washing.
We drank it though.
Well, but you'd have to sterilize it first, you'd have to heat it.
Clarence had a big cistern
Yeah,
behind
well,
his
yeah,
house, and
yeah.
I don't remember them ever sterilizing it.
Oh, the sister would catch it.
Oh.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Cause their
that's a
buzzards
big
and everything else sat on top of their roof.
Yeah, I know
you know.
they did. Wasn't
And,
very sad.
But
I know
Denise and
that.
they had the cistern there cause for washing. And she'd always, it was a colored guy, a lady, would come and wash every Monday or Tuesday, you know, and big,
Well, some of the farms had the deep wells, the
yeah,
artesian
and
ones.
the stinky stuff.
Yes,
Well,
full
what did
sulfur.
they drink here then? At Ruth's place?
The
What did they
pitcher
drink?
pump, and then didn't you
Well,
see
where
them
did that-
5-gallon jugs, what they used to buy water
Oh,
to
yeah.
for
But
drinking?
for cooking and things.
Yeah,
they didn't,
but she would take the water out of the cistern outside, had a spigot,
yeah, I know
go out
that.
there and turn it, and then she would boil that, see, and then afterwards we would drink it.
I know.
I remember when we
Sister was.
first came here, we rented the house over by Casabel Hotel.
Mhm.
We weren't used to cistern water or anything like. We were sort of city people.
Yeah.
And the water had little thin red worms. Did you ever see water from a cistern that had that?
I don't remember the worms, but I'm sure they were there.
It did. So my husband thought he'd better clean out the cistern. Well, you'd never drink cistern water if you saw what he
No, and what they'd find dead rats and everything in there.
Yeah,
Sure, I
dead
know.
rats.
I know that.
And
But I don't know, people
you
live
spoil-
right
you
on.
spoil it.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't die so young then, we didn't catch everything
You're
either.
still here.
Sure.
No, it isn't that it hurt us, I guess, but it
No.
just doesn't sound.
But nowadays,
like
you
it.
can't eat hardly anything else, you're gonna get something, see?
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess-
if you boil the water, it's perfectly sterile.
But the rainwater was awful flat when you tried to drink some of that. I mean, the rainwater it didn't have all the taste.
But didn't you have sulfur water over here?
Oh
We
yeah,
did,
after a
and
while they started digging wells. They had one out towards Casabel. They used to get water from.
We had sulfur water when we lived in Fort Myers.
Yeah, out in South Broadway
Sure
where we
did.
lived, we had deep well. But you could draw off the sulfur water and let it stand, and then it'd lose the rotten egg smell to it and taste, you know. But then finally they came out with the irrigation. I was saying, well, it wasn't irrigation either. What was it? The water you'd
Run it through something.
Aerate.
Aerate.
Yeah,
say, like that
aerate,
for a little
yeah.
bit, and then the water was beautiful. You turn on the spigot in the bathroom.
We
or
finally
kitchen,
had one of those installed in ours too.
and you never taste anything but that rotten egg water. That's
But I know my brother Bill and his wife came down to visit us. He
Yeah, I
said,
know.
well, I'm not going to come back until you get some other kind of water than that. He said, it smells like rotten eggs. He couldn't stand that sulfur water. But we did have an aerator to put in and it was
Yeah.
delicious. But there was an awful smell. I agree with him.
yeah.
And the
We
coffee
haul-
would get very strong.
We'd haul them shells and put it on the road, you know.
Even as late as when we came here, we were still using the shell
Go down towards your lighthouse.
Mhm.
to mix with the cement,
That may be.
you know, to make the mortar
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
for the cement blocks.
Well, kind of like using little stones, you'd use
Oh,
the
I
shells.
think so, yeah.
So it worked.
Probably ground up a little bit, some of the fine shell.
Well, in those days, nobody objected to our taking the shell from
Off
the
the
beach.
beach.
Oh,
You could go out and drive up and down the beach, and all the people own that property, or some of it, they wouldn't care.
Mm-mm.
But
No.
after Hires, when he first come in here, down here, what was his name? He built it?
Martin.
Martin Hires. He's the guy that started putting up barbed wire fence
Oh,
and all
really?
that stuff to keep people off the beach.
I don't
Finally, the
remember
coun-
that. I don't
Finally,
remember.
the county had to make him take it down too.
Oh.
Sure.
because I
Well,
know.
they didn't want anybody on the beach.
Well, he's the one who agitated to have West Gulf Drive in its present position. You remember the road used to run closer to the Gulf in
Yeah.
front of the cottages.
Yeah, I know
right.
he did. Mhm.
And he said it was dangerous for his guests who had children to be crossing that road with all the traffic.
Yeah, I mean-
I look back and I think about the traffic.
What traffic?
What traffic? At any rate, the county went for the idea because
They built a road.
after
back
they
up.
built the road in the back, because they didn't have to keep it up so much. In the front, after every storm, they had to come over and fix it up a
Right,
little.
same as Captiva, along Captiva there, you know, they'd wash it out. That was way out, Captiva,
Yes.
on the bridge. You leave there and go up to Captiva. There was a lot of frontage along there. Like Johnny Wakefield, you know, when he put up the cottages alongside of Tween Waters.
Yes,
there, you
I-
know, it's all in one. He married.
Couple hundred feet. He
Yeah,
married
long-
Dottie Wakefield.
Yeah, Dottie Wakefield.
Dottie has left Captiva.
She has left
She
too.
has?
I couldn't believe that she'd ever leave Captiva.
Oh,
She went up to South Carolina.
well, did he die, Johnny?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, he
yes.
died quite a
Well, they were divorced and then they lived
Built
together.
houses
Then they
right
got
alongside
along,
of each
yeah.
other, and then they got along swell.
Yeah,
After
they,
they
they
were
did.
divorced, they
Yeah.
got along fine. I've often thought of trying that.
but you should have tried it years ago, Ma.
Catherine Hepburn says men and women should be neighbors and visit.
I
Yeah,
think that's true.
I think they get along better that way.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of years.
They had one,
Come and go.
Johnny Wakefield and Dottie had one little girl, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Nikki.
Nikki, yeah.
They adopted her.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Mrs. Price, you know, I remember her when she was still alive. you know,
Beautiful woman.
Yeah, on the Tween Waters.
Do you ever remember going to Smorgasbord on Captiva for Signey Whiteman?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah, were mentioning Jimmy
uh-huh.
Yeah.
a while ago.
Yeah.
Jimmy Whiteman.
And the two boys, she only had the two
Carl and
boys.
Roy.
I never knew Roy, only
Uh-huh.
Carl.
Yeah,
He's on the home place out east of
See,
Fort Myers.
when
We
they
had
left-
dinner together here when? All
Last
four of us, Carl and his wife and Roy and us.
Oh, didn't he own something down in the islands?
yeah,
Oh, he
that's where it
owned
was
a lot of
going.
property, yeah.
Yeah.
They talk about where they went.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, now you mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know what island it is out there.
Coco, isn't it, Di? Do you remember? Cocos? Cocos, I think they call it. They flew out there last,
Sunday.
Caicos, yeah, last Sunday they flew back to the island. We had
He's
dinner
building
with
a
them.
home out there. They rented a house out there where they stay, but he's building a nice big home. Sure, he'll unload that. Somebody come along want it.
Yeah.
He'll make.
But they
another
live in
fortune.
Missouri now.
Yeah.
We stopped.
Well, where the Mucky Duck is now was the place that Signa and Jimmy ran.
I think the place where they were is washed away, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, when you
It was
turn
right on the Gulf.
you turn to your right when you're going up the island. I mean, you have to
Where
turn there.
Jensen's is.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah,
gotta
that
turn there.
corner,
Right
yeah.
there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, their smorgasbord used to be right there on that corner.
Oh, now I
See, that's
thought,
why-
Then
Washed
she
away
moved
so
up to
much.
the store building after that.
Yes.
Yeah, then she moved up to the store
well,
building.
do you remember the Wedekins?
No, I don't, but maybe.
Their
I do.
daughter married John Bailey.
Oh, I don't remember.
Well, do you
that.
remember Gulfview Inn?
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
yes. uh-huh.
Guffey Inn.
Well, I thought that was a place Signa had.
No, well, see,
I guess not then.
but didn't Charlie Knapp's wife, didn't she own some of them cottages and stuff like that? As you turn from the bay, I mean, from the Guff going down towards Timmy's Nook? Didn't she?
I really don't know.
Yeah, she
I
has
don't
some
know.
cottages down in there.
Because I know when my sister and I came to Florida in '34, Signey's one of the first friends that we met over there.
Oh, she was such a good
Oh,
cook
she's a
and,
beautiful lady.
and a baker too.
Yeah.
See, and then when they went to, what creek is it? Hickory's Creek?
Hickey's Creek.
Yeah, Hickory's Creek. See, they bought a bunch of land there. And that's where Roy is now. He's living alone out there. They got cattle and chickens and ducks and all that stuff. He sells and
Yeah.
golden pheasants and things. So he's a brother to Carl. But Carl stayed over here and made a fortune. Property and buying and selling and stuff.
Well,
like
Joe
that.
Whiteman
Yeah,
is
that's a uncle.
that's,
Uncle to
brother
those two
to
boys. Jimmy
Jimmy.
Whiteman. Jimmy Whiteman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's still living.
See, they
Yeah.
used to, the Whitemans, I mean, Joe and them, they used to live here on the island too before Joe went to Captiva. They lived on Sanibel. Jimmy,
Where did the Whitemans live?
you know,
On Sanibel.
let's see now. I used to know. what corner it was.
I don't remember Signey until we came, of course, when I first came to Florida in 34, but then we stayed in one of her cottages, I know, Diane and I. No, that was after our kids were born. When Wayne was born and we came down on a trip, we stayed in one of her cottages.
I'm trying to think where.
I don't remember where they lived, only on Captiva there.
Yeah, man, I mean the brothers. See, there's two brothers, Jimmy and Joe.
Oh, that
They
I
lived
don't
over
know.
here on the island
Oh,
in
that
some
may be,
shack.
that I
don't
know.
what it was.
I know nothing
They was
about.
bachelors.
That's possible. That was before
She
my
was
time, I
Swedish,
guess.
you know, Mrs. White.
Oh,
She
yeah.
come over from Sweden.
Those smorgasbords
Yeah.
were delicious.
Then they used to serve, they didn't charge you very much, and then had a pitcher of beer, that didn't they? At one time, you
That I
remember
don't
that?
remember.
I don't remember the beer.
Yeah, they had beer, they served beer with it. I think they only charged you a dollar and something for the meal, and then give you a pitcher of beer. So you couldn't beat it. And then finally they went up 50 cents or something.
People complained
And then
about it.
people complained because they were charging too much for the meal.
And the food she
Couldn't even get a sandwich over here now for what she was feeding.
Mm.
Yeah,
Then after she left the island, after they moved out east of Fort Myers, out to Hickey's Creek, she tried it out at her house there for a few times, but I don't think the smorgasbord went over so good out there. I
Then she-
helped her a couple of times with served tables, you know.
then she
But
came
it just
into the
didn't
old
work out.
Gwynn School in Fort Myers, what do you call it? The
Green Institute.
Queen Institute, and then the Masons got a hold of it, the Sonic Lodge. Then she'd come in there,
They'd cook for them.
cook for them. They were once a week. They'd have a big meeting and a big meal, and she'd come in there and cook for them. Now they're going to, well, they have tore it down, I imagine. I haven't been uptown lately, where they're going to build some more for the tax assessing business. They
Fort
can,
Myers changing.
yeah.
Have another ballpark before long too, I
See,
guess.
now it goes to tell, years ago too. When I lived over here, if I wanted a haircut, there wasn't no, hardly in no barbers over here. Somebody would cut it, because they'd set a bowl on your head and cut around it. But if you went to town, you'd go over, you'd catch your Gladys here, or the Dixie, at 3 o'clock or 3:30. You get into town, you get it in there 5:30 or what it was. The barber shops are closed. Okay, you couldn't get your hair cut. So the next morning, the boat would leave at 8 o'clock. Well, the stores, the barber shop, nothing hadn't opened up yet. So then you had to stay 2 nights to get a haircut or do your shopping, stuff like that, see. That's how bad it was. So, but after we got to going, the ferries come in, see, I mean, they only had one, but, and that was Collier. Kinsey Brothers didn't start it, see, and it used to go way up to the post office up the bay. It didn't land at Bailey's store at that time. See, Mr. Bailey put up the dock, had put up the dock to get them to come in there by his store, instead of going way up to where the island, past Ross Mayer and all of them, went to the post office.
So Kinsey bought from
Collier. Yeah. Because my brother Lewis, he helped, and it was a Shanahan who was running the Collier ferry too. He was a brother to Webb Shanahan, who was brother to him.
Now, which boat was this?
That's one of the Gladys or the Dixie, I don't know which.
This one, that other one I remember, this one I remember.
Yeah, see, that was a different, see, the Dixie is bigger than the Gladys.
This is like it was when we came to the island, we landed on the,
Yeah, so on the
No,
ferry.
there were two old ferries, the Islander and the Best.
Yeah, but the Best started first. There was only one.
Yeah.
And then they got the Islander, and then they got another one.
Well,
See,
the
they had
Rebel was new,
Yeah, it was a newer one. Yeah.
and then the Yankee Clipper.
Yeah, and see, this ship Best, that was the first one. They bought that from Collier, and that's where they used to.
I guess the Yankee Clipper was before the Rebel.
I don't remember.
But they were
They're all-
similar boats. They each carried 9 cars, those bigger
there
ones.
3 of them. At the last was all running together. I mean,
Yeah,
every
4.
so often.
4. They
Every
ran
so
them,
often
yeah,
you could catch one.
yeah. Every 15 minutes in the wintertime.
And Captain Leon was a captain. Of course, he was a captain on the one of these here too. I don't know whether it was the Dixie or the
He
Gladys.
was on one of these. I
Yeah.
think he was on the Gladys.
His son and daughter came over for our Christmas
Oh, did they?
show,
Yeah.
for the opening of
Uh-huh.
our Christmas
Oh.
toy show.
We
Oh,
always
I
called-
see.
We called him Buddy, brother. I used to call him brother.
I think this is the one that Diane
He is,
Mabel
I
and I
don't know
came
what
on.
his first name is. He was captain on one of the boats up in Michigan, on the Great Lakes,
Mhm.
the iron ore. He retired from that, he's pensioned off from that. And he used to run one of the ferries at last too. In the
And,
wintertime he would.
And his sister Gloria's husband, Dick Chappelle,
Chappelle.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
ran one.
Yeah, Dick ran one.
Do you happen to know Curry Wiles?
No.
Curry, he's only nephew, but he lives in Fort Myers. He comes over occasionally, I know, goes up and has lunch.
Well, now, there's some Wiles that comes every Christmas, and I can't remember his first name.
And maybe
He would
Curry.
be a nephew to you.
I bet it's Curry then. He's a big, sort of
guy.
big stomach.
Yeah, he's a very big man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He lives,
And all these other Wildses and stuff like that, there's no shirt tail relations or nothing there.
just
Only-
the girls.
Well, I mean, anybody else that's moving in. and-
Yeah, they're not relatives of this.
When we was phone book first, it was just our family was in this phone book. Now the thing is full of Wildses and there's no relations at all.
Mhm.
Well, TM and Beulah had so many girls, and
Yeah,
they,
6
That's
or
all.
7.
so they all have different names.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
So the Wilds family,
Lewis had one girl, no boys there.
and so the Wilds name would be running out, but our son's son, they had a little boy
Did
not
I
too
bring
long
one of
ago.
those
You got a
pictures?
picture of
I
that
don't
too
know, I
with it.
think I did.
You're
Didn't I
supposed
bring
to get a picture of it. That'd be the
That's
4
my
generations. So otherwise the Wilds name would run out,
Yeah,
you
the
know.
fourth generation of Wiles. I think
Yeah.
I brought a picture of that, snapped up. He's only a couple months old, but, and I brought this for, Eleanor Dormer.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a book from her. Shall I leave it here or should I mail it to her?
Oh, we can leave it on the
Okay,
desk, I
the
think,
check
don't
is
you
in,
think?
the check is in here for the book.
Yeah.
She said that she mailed it out. I told her I'd pick it up like today, but she mailed it, I see.
She's usually in Friday mornings.
Is she kind of getting a little of, what do you call it? Disease?
Well,
Kind of
we
bothers her a
thought
little
she
bit.
had Parkinson's.
Yeah, a little bit.
But
Well, I
it
thought
isn't.
about
It is.
It isn't
Maybe not.
Parkinson's.
That's Winfred and our son Wayne and his son Stephen and Stephen's son.
That's 4
Drew.
generations there.
Uh-huh. He was born in October, a little baby. I thought I had brought that.
Nice picture.
Yeah, it's a nice picture.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know Wayne was saying one time, he said, if somebody doesn't get started here pretty soon, the Wild's name on our side is gonna run out. So finally Steve got,
And now we're having another grandson married the 1st of February.
This looks like an antique christening dress.
It
It is.
is.
That's
It's about 77 years old. The great-grandfather of this baby was baptized in it, Mr. Hessler.
Hesslers.
Carpenter.
Carpet Hessler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carl Hessler.
Uh-huh.
Carl
See,
Hessler. Yes.
Wayne was married first to Hessler's daughter,
Mhm.
you know,
I see.
and then. twin-
Hesslers have a lot of carpet stores.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, they do. And the other 2 boys are still working.
Yeah, see, this one is
Hessler.
running the store, the
In
oldest one,
Punta Gorda.
Steve, is running one of Hessler's stores in Punta Gorda.
Mhm.
And John works in town right there on Fowler Street in that carpet store, see.
Excuse me.
Well, I don't know, I could have been.
Oh, what the
Oh,
heck?
my